today is just to model and see how we're doing with this strategy, okay? So we're going to work through this example like we do. Remember, the whole purpose of reciprocal teaching is to try to encourage you guys to communicate with each other. I think sometimes when we see word problems, you read it and you think initially, I don't get it. And then you move on or you guess. Okay? Sean and Mason? So this is just encouraging you and giving you the tools, Faith, to be a little bit more intentional and purposeful about your thought process. Okay? So make sure as we're doing this activity, you're thinking, you're talking, you're following along with the steps, and you're really just trying to have that thinking and that conversation be purposeful. Good? Okay. About how many ants do you think there are in the world?
More than 646 million.
How many ants do you think are in the world? Now, if you use our reciprocal teaching mat as a guide, our first step is to have some quiet thinking and predicting. So either get a number in your head or write a number on your dry erase board. Predict. Before we even start to solve this problem, get a number in your head about how many ants are in the world.
You.
This is Robert. Robert, this is Mr. Brandon.
Like RJ?
Robert's first day is here, so you can write it on the understand.
I just write it on the napkin.
Let's
I'll be recording.
If you haven't already, either show your neighbors your number. All right. I see some giant numbers up there. Okay. I see lots of zeros. I see lots of people that had like billion, million. Some people said a lot. So already your brains are anticipating or predicting or thinking what the number is going to look like. It's going to be, from what you guys wrote and said, a big number, right? Okay. So here is some more information. Read that. Okay, now you guys predicted already, so you kind of have an idea of what our answer might look like. And here's a little bit more information for you. Okay. So 4.6 times, ooh, that should say 10 to the 7th ants for every human on the planet. You can fix that. The world population is 7 billion. And there are 4.6 times 10 to the 7th ants for every single human. Think about a strategy or an operation that you might use to solve it. Okay? 2 more pieces of information. Think about a possible strategy that you could use to solve it. Okay? Share that with your neighbors.
Don't ever do that. That was disrespectful. I don't know. I forgot what I wrote.
It's 10 to the 6th.
4 times 6 is 6.
Yeah. I'll get a calculator.
Did you guys start a strategy or did you discuss a strategy to solve it? Okay, you're thinking you're gonna multiply?
That's the,
Okay, so what are you multiplying?
yeah.
These two? Darius, what are you thinking? Kingston is thinking we're multiplying. What are you thinking? You agree? I'm hearing some conversation that I'd like you guys to share. Think about some of the questions that you've been asking your neighbors. Alea, over here, what did you just ask? About the problem.
No, I was asking about this.
Somebody asked a question over here. What did I just heard a question? Okay, so Faith is saying, don't we add zeros? Anybody else? I think I heard a question over here. What question do you guys have over here? Do you guys have any questions over here? And I wrote this and used possibly smaller or more simple numbers. Maybe I say the population of the world is, let's say, just 7. We know that's not right, but we're just making the numbers more simple. And I said there are 5 ants for every human. How many ants would there be?
Oh wait, 5.
Hang on.
Like multiply. It's like so 7 million times 5.
Yes, yes. A lot of the times, if you make numbers just super simple out, our solving step, trying different strategies, we've done specifically 2 to see if you can come up with that number. Okay? I'm coming around listening for 2 strategies. I can think of 2 that we practiced yesterday.
Are you doing solving?
Okay, so what is one method we could use to solve that now that we know we're multiplying?
Look what I did to my Okay.
So you've got your problem set up
Okay.
right here.
And what did we say
So doing
yesterday?
this.
We had multiplication what we did with the exponent.
So could we list this out and list this out and multiply? Or could we write them both like this?
Talk to Jimmy. I think you two together can.
You guys want to talk a little louder because Mr. Brandon said Sean's kind of getting some thinking going. I know you've got some thinking going. Good. So we're solving. So we are multiplying. So what is going to be your strategy to multiply those 2 numbers together?
Yes. What are you doing? Yep. And then what are you going to do with your exponent? Great. Do the math part of it. Now you need help.
Okay, can you explain to Darius what you're thinking is?
Oh, well, times this first and then like add all these and then.
Okay, Darius, what are you thinking about his work?
In the world.
1 million billion. Oh, look at you.
How many
using
ants is
research.
that?
That is so gross.
5 ants per person, 7 billion people in the world. How many ants total?
Right.
So that's
Now,
why we multiplied.
This number probably isn't going to match our problem. You know what I mean? Because
Does
we're
that make sense?
using
Yeah,
this
yeah.
information
Yeah.
to get the
We use
answer.
it when we know.
So what is
Yeah.
this for?
But see,
Let me
this
see,
the
what did
actual
you guys do
amount.
with your math so far?
1 billion million ants. That's a lot of ants.
7 times 5 and then we got 35 billion.
Okay, now hang on. Where did the 7 and 5 come from?
So there's 7 million
7
people.
billion people.
And you said
then
5 ants per person.
Okay, so remember that was a strategy. That was taking the 2 scientific notation numbers, making them into simple numbers so that we could connect easier to what the operation is. So that was just to get us to see what the operation was. So then now that we know what the operation is, then we're applying that operation to the actual numbers that were up there. So adjust that thinking a little bit. Good. Good.
adjust that thinking.
Okay, we're gonna bring this together a little bit. When we first started introducing reciprocal teaching to the students, we used a dry erase map that had the 5 different sections on it. It really helped to give the students kind of a guide to go along with the different process steps in reciprocal teaching. I feel that with some of the students, the conversation is natural. I feel like with other students, they kind of need that resource to kind of give them confidence of, you know, what does it mean when I'm clarifying? What does it mean to question? So I think giving them that specific, a little bit more structured format really helped to kind of guide the thinking and move the conversation forward. With one of my classes, the one that we just looked at, it's not as natural for them, so it took a little bit more, just a little more slow in the process, like really focus in on this one piece, clarifying. What does that mean? What things should I be saying if I'm in the clarifying process? So it was really just being very intentional about the words that we used in each of those different processes. When I introduced it to some of my other classes that tend to have a little bit more of the natural curiosity and conversation, it was a little easier. They just kind of naturally would ask questions and try to figure out and manage their way through what process might have been the best or what strategy might have been the best for it. I feel like I constantly look at, each class is completely different. So I think with my first period class, it definitely gives them more confidence. I feel like it gives them a model. I feel like it provides them with, kind of an in. Because I think sometimes, some of the lower students might look at the problem and they check out right away. I feel like it gives them better access to, okay, it's okay if I saw it and I have to reread it again, like that's a normal process. It's okay if I don't understand it right away because that means I'm clarifying, I'm questioning. With the other classes, I feel like the students that get it right away, and I tell them this all the time, you're sitting with a group of 4 or 5 people. It's great if you get it right away, but the point of it is to share your thinking so that other people can join in on that conversation. You might access it in a different way that's going to help provide meaning to somebody else who either didn't get it, was confused, or might have had, a less, not a better way to do it, but just kind of a way that maybe wasn't the best use of time or the smartest way to access the problem. So just to kind of intentionally make them slow down and bring everybody along with them.
I think it makes me more mindful about what I'm doing as like a thinking process. So that way, if I do come across a larger problem that's more difficult, I can go through that thought process and fully think through the problem and maybe get through it and persevere. When you predict, it's guessing, but you're also using like an educated guess and making something that's reasonable, so that way when you're summarizing it, you can think back to your prediction and say, oh, it's reasonable because when I predicted, this is what I thought. And then I think that also comes with questioning as well, because when you question it, you're also kind of predicting what you think the outcome will look like.